So, has anybody got a challenge? Who's got solutions? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So basically, we're all facing one thing. We all have one thing in common, and that's we all face challenges, right? In our personal life, but especially in business. We can be business owners for many, many different reasons. If we all talked about it, it'd all be for a different reason probably. But we all have that in common, that we have constant challenges that we're faced with. So let's just talk about the process. It could be that we just have too much work to do. Maybe we just feel like we're on that hamster wheel and we can't go any further. Maybe we're just wearing so many hats, or IT. Has anybody got any IT problems? It takes me over. We have the specialist over here, right. So let's just so let's just talk about a few of them. When maybe we're working, just way too many hours, or we need some more revenue or sales. Anybody need more revenue, sales? Yeah, we can all use that, right? No one to delegate to. Anybody got that issue? How about not paying themselves quite as often as you'd like? Keeping up with social media, Great Karen can help you with that. No time for family or friends. Making it, might be bringing in the revenue, but are you making the profit? Maybe you're just down tired, We just get that way sometimes. Difficult employees, or maybe a vendor or a customer that you're dealing with, that can be a challenge. It can be on, following up on prospects. We just don't have the time. We don't have the process in place. Could be too much debt. Could be finding another you, another me, somebody that does what we do, so duplicate ourselves so that we can have more time. Marketing, that's always an issue. Cash flow issues, staying current. Lack of systems and processes. And I could go on and on and on, right? Is there anyone in here that doesn't relate to at least one of those? No. So we all have. So how do we solve that? How do we go on that? So real briefly, and since we don't have a lot of time, we're just going to briefly, you'll go around your table, just state what your maybe a current challenge that you have with everybody at your table. So we'll just take a couple minutes to do that. Okay, we'll bring it back. I know we could stay and talk about this for all day long, right? Right. But let's get to the solution. How do we solve those issues and those challenges? So, how we deal with challenges is what sets us apart. We can either be the person who struggles and we let those challenges take over and stop us on our tracks and don't let us move forward, or we can be the person who is willing to jump the hurdles and try and change something. So that's really where we are and what needs to happen. So I have this process that I work with a lot of my clients, and I wanted to share it with you today. So one is, first you have to identify what the challenge is, right? And you all just kind of did that. But the second part of that whole thing, and I think a lot of people forget about, is that they really need to clarify, what does that look like? What is that success going to look like if that problem or that challenge is taken away? What is the opposite of that? What does it really look like? And sometimes we're just way too broad, and we just know we want to get rid of it, but we haven't thought about what do we need to replace that with. So that's step one. And then step two is the cause, right? So we want to look at and clarify what's going on. For an example, it might be you have an employee who kind of is outburst or erupts meetings all the time. Well, it might not because she's a difficult employee. Maybe it's because she doesn't feel like she's being heard in other areas of at work. So there's always underlying issues. And usually what we think about, the first thing we think about is our problem, is just the surface. We really need to look deep so can't solve a problem if you really don't know what the root cause is. So then the third part is just brainstorming some solutions. What are all the possible solutions that we could do to solve that issue, that problem, that challenge? And then the fourth is to just pick one and create an action plan around that. So we're going to kind of walk through this together. So we're going to all pretend that we're not a no-life Lisa or Lou, right? So we're working a lot of hours, no time for yourself, don't have time to exercise, can't do your hobby, you don't ever have any time for relaxation, no time for your family and friends, and you're missing out on important events. Everybody can kind of put themselves in that position. So how do we solve that issue? So the first thing is, we want to say, okay, we know what our issue is. We want to say, okay, I want to schedule and make more time for the things that matter to me. Maybe that's what we state. But really, what does it really look like? It's easy to say, I want it, but well, maybe I want to start exercising 3 days a week, or maybe I need date night again. Kind of gotten out of the way of that. Or maybe you love to cook, or maybe somebody at your home loves to cook and you want some home-cooked meals for a change. Social time. Maybe, you haven't been out with your friends for a while. So we really want to define, what does that success look like if you take away that challenge? So it really is a very important part. So the next is the cause. And again, as I said before, we really have to look deeper into this. So first thing you might say, well, I just work too much, my schedule's too full, I just don't have time, but that's just an overarching part of the problem. Let's really think about it. We got late meetings and events that we're constantly attending. Maybe we love social media, but we just get wrapped up into it. Now, that wouldn't be me, but that might be Karen. But you just get wrapped up into it, and it goes, just kind of wild. Maybe you don't want to go home. You get griped at because you're never home, and so why, subconsciously you don't want to go home, or other reasons, but maybe you just don't pay attention to time. Maybe you just get lost in what you're doing and you don't pay enough attention to time. Or maybe you're doing the wrong things. Bookkeeping, SEO, IT, your social media stuff. We tend to spend a lot of time, and we spend a lot of our really good quality time doing things that we probably shouldn't be doing as business owners. So, that's kind of deep, going a little bit deeper, and you could even go deeper than that. But that kind of shows you we have an overarching cause of the problem, but really, what are the things that we're doing that's causing the issue? Is everybody kind of with me on that? So then we want to basically list all the options, and this is where it's really a great place to have, if you're a part of a mastermind group, or just to get somebody else to help bounce some ideas off of you, another group, or just an individual, because what we think and what we've been through in our history is one thing, but somebody else is going to bring something totally different to it. And they're going to challenge us, and they're going to make us look at things a little bit deeper, a little bit different than we might look at it. So here are some options because of we're that no life Lisa or Lou. We could start working a little bit earlier. If we worked a little bit earlier, maybe we could leave a little bit earlier. Maybe we do some time blocking. That's an option. Delegate some of our work. Be more focused and productive. And that's just, a huge thing. We could get really deep on that. Maybe we need to shift, our workload timing. I have a client who has really a lot of time, a lot of clients on the East Coast, on the West Coast. So, she got to the point where she was staying really late to deal with those clients. They said, why don't you just start your day a little bit later at work? And that just really solved that issue. So, sometimes just shifting when we're doing things, working on the top 20%, that's basically a good thing to do. But the key here is just to pick one. Maybe we need to implement all of these, or part of these or some of these, but just pick one. Pick one place to start. It's really about one thing and taking one step at a time. If we're going to go run a marathon, it's really one step at a time. If we're going to walk down the street, it's one step at a time. Sometimes we'll just get there faster, right? It's the action we're taking. So it's really about taking an action and just one step at a time. So we've chose to do some time blocking. So what does that look like? Well, we can basically first, and most important, make a commitment to whatever you're going to do. You have to make a commitment for yourself. So in this case, we're going to make a commitment to a better life, a better time, more time, family and friends. So we could block time off of our calendars so that we don't have any late meetings after maybe 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So that might be something. If you look at your calendar, you might realize, hey, I'm scheduling a lot of late afternoon meetings. So maybe I need to shift when I do my meetings. So that could help. That's scheduling. I kind of went backwards, but we could block off, I want to leave the office by a certain time, right? So make a commitment that I'm going to leave, even if it's 3 days a week, by a certain time. Can make a difference. Set an alarm 30 minutes prior to going, before you have to go home. So it's really about creating that step, really knowing, okay, what can I do to make this solution a little bit better? And then you want to keep some kind of a score. You need to really watch what you're doing. It's one thing to say it, it's one thing to say I'm doing it, but to really track it in some form, some method, you want to track. Even if it's a daily tick on your calendar that, I left, the office at 4 o'clock or 4:30 every day. Whatever that is, keep score, and then also reap the rewards of that and enjoy that time. And don't feel guilty, because guilt can really take on a whole nother thing in itself. And guilt is the thing that really, I think, a lot of business owners spend a lot of time. I should have been here, I'm doing this. And when you make that commitment, especially to yourself and your family, you want to just let that guilt go. Work's going to be there no matter what. So, take the time and enjoy. So really, it's your turn. So we really don't have time to go through the whole exercise today, but there are handouts on the table that will kind of give you a form that looks like this. And basically, you can take it with you and allow you to identify. You're going to identify your challenge. And then, what does success look like? You're going to take the time to look at that. And then you're going to describe the cause. And again, you want to go deeper and maybe help somebody else with that. And then the third is the solutions. You're going to brainstorm solutions on your success. And then the fourth is, what's that action plan? So that you can go forward. So to just kind of recap, we're going to identify the problem, right? And then what is that solution look like? What's that success look like? What is the cause? And again, we're going to try and go as deep as we can. We're going to brainstorm some solutions. And then we're going to pick one of those solutions and try and implement that for a period of time. And then we can come back and add another one. So I will leave that open for questions before I finish up. Any questions, comments?
Cathy, why is it that people tend to want to focus on starting rather than finishing?
Because that's where the pain is. Because we know this pain and we just want to get rid of the pain. So it's all, it's about the pain. And when we stop and say, okay, well, yeah, we have pain, but really, what does that success look like? I think that's the part that we really miss a lot of times.
Is there a specific time frame from when you start something and find out whether it's working or not working?
That's really I would give yourself a time frame, and it really depends on what it is, because it could be so different depending on every single thing we talk about. But I would give yourself, number one, give yourself long enough to really implement it. Sometimes we tend to, try it for a week and have, well, that didn't work. and so we just go back to what we're doing. Give yourself a length of time enough that you can really see the progress in that. And then if you see that it's not working, then, you can take another time. But that really depends on what it is and what you're trying to do.
Yeah, Cathy, as a follow-up to Richard's question, how important is it to develop some kind of metric? I mean, do we give up too often because we don't have a clear metric to measure whether or not we're actually doing something effectively, or that we don't have a feedback loop? Or
Right, definitely, and it's kind of like I said, when we're trying to create that action, really come up with some way that you can measure, because if you're not measuring what you're doing, and if there's some success behind it, then we tend to, sometimes we're having success and we don't even recognize it because it's very small steps, and it really is. So we really want to have some kind of a metric that you're really, making sure that you're watching it on a daily basis and you're moving forward on it. And again, it's, as far as the biggest thing that we find is we're all creatures are human creatures, right? And our human tendency goes to, let's just go back to what we were doing before because it's so much easier. And it's really about changing that. Anything else?
Really more a comment than a question, but all these challenges can really be a burden in our lives, our daily lives, and so I just feel better that you've assured us, and I think sometimes we forget this, that every challenge really does have a solution, and that's something I think we're sometimes our worst enemy, and that we don't take time to really analyze, sit down, think about what are we going through, what's causing us stress and frustration, and it is these darn challenges, but if we would invest the time, we really would be able to come up with a viable solution.
Definitely, I agree with you tremendously. And another thing is sometimes it's really not as bad as we think it is. We've had so many that we've got on our plate right now that it just seems overwhelming and seems that we just can't get past it. And it's really one day, one step at a time. Anything else? Okay. So my to you is to, go back, review your solutions, and go and learn to solve your challenges, and of course, don't fly alone.